Hello again, YouTubers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm your host, the Board Game Captain, and today I'm going to be reviewing and talking about Battletech, the game of armored combat. Now, this is the current edition of the Battletech introductory box set, which is a board game within itself, but this is an incredibly expandable game that has been around for a very long time. Battletech is a game that first showed up in 1985. And just to show you, here's a much older edition of the game I happen to still have in my collection. This is one from the 90s, because I personally have been playing Battletech in some form or another since the early 90s. Now, this edition of Battletech, the current edition you'll find on the shelf, was published by Catalyst Game Labs and is a game for 2 or more players ages 13 and up. Now, in Battletech, you and your opponent take on the role of mech commanders who are controlling a unit or lance of mechs. Now, mechs are these huge apartment building sized walking tanks bristling with weapons that take to the battlefields of the future to duke it out and blow each other to pieces, basically. Though there are other ways to play it. You don't just have to play of either you kill me or I kill you. There are also lots of interesting scenarios you can play. For instance, there's a scenario in the Total Warfare book, which is sort of the next step up from the introductory box set, if you will, that involves rescuing a pilot that was lost behind enemy lines. And in that particular scenario, the lance that is trying to rescue the pilot doesn't need to destroy all of the enemy mechs. All they have to do is find the pilot, pick him up, and get out of dodge, which makes for a quicker game. And the other side, all they have to do is find where the pilot is and capture him, and also leave. So the reason why they don't give a listing of how long this game is to take is because it's so customizable. You can play it any number of players, any amazing amounts of variety of different numbers of mechs on either side. And depending on how you're playing, the variety of how long this game could last is huge. Now, a standard game of Battletech is usually just a lance-on-lance fight. Just my 4 mechs, your 4 mechs, and they're fighting it out. And in that case, it's probably about a 3 to 5 hour game. But again, there are much quicker scenarios you can play, and there are larger scenarios where it could take all day to play an incredibly complicated, huge game with a lot more mechs. But that's all up to you. Now, let's have a look at the box set here. Now, the box set comes with everything you need to get started in playing Battletech, and you never really need to buy anything else beyond the box set. It's a fully self-contained board game here. But let's be honest, you probably will if you get into it. So, first thing I want to show you in the box set, the most important component, is it comes with 2 6-sided dice and a little Ziploc bag here. Almost every roll you will ever need to roll in Battletech is done by rolling 2 6-sided dice. And that includes rolls to shoot the target, rolls to see if you can stay standing, rolls for your pilot to remain conscious, all done with 2 6-sided dice. Now, the next thing I want to show you is the box set comes with tons, and I mean tons, of plastic mechs. Huge amounts of these mechs to use in the game. For instance, if you have a look here, that is an Enforcer. That is a Zeus mech. This is the light little speedy Cicada. And here is the enormous 100-ton Atlas. Now, these are very nicely detailed. They look great on the tabletop, in the game. There's so many different mechs to go by that it's very easy to make sure that you and your opponent don't use any of the same mechs at the same time, so that you don't need to paint them. But if you want to, if you like to paint them, these plastic miniatures, which are very nice, here's a catapult, these plastic miniatures hold paint very well. And to show you, I have painted a lance of 4 mechs, 2 of which were from the starter set. In addition to the starter set, and like I said, there's 30 years worth of expanded modules and rule sets and books and miniatures that are added to the base game that you can buy. They sell pewter miniatures of mechs that you can add to your collection. So for instance, this is a non-painted, just to show you a pewter miniature, non-painted Centaurian mech. Now I do have some mechs here that I painted, 2 of which are from the box set. This is one of the plastic box set minis of a trebuchet, or as I affectionately like to refer to it, a trebucket. Here is a painted panther. And then I have 2 pewter miniatures that were painted. This one is a dragon. And my final one here is an Atlas. It's an enormous Atlas mech. Now these are all painted up to be a specific unit. They are obviously all have the same color. They're all red. And I did a little bit of research, but you don't have to. You can make up your own unit, make up your own color scheme, and do whatever you like. Or you can leave them just plastic, and it's all up to you. You can get as involved with this or as casual with this as you want. Now, the next component I want to show you are the boards. The game box comes with 2 double-sided boards to give you lots of variety. Now, the boards, let me just show you this. They use hexes for movement, which is why you'll notice that the miniatures have hex-shaped bases. The boards, let me open this one up to show you, give you some terrain to fight in and around and over. This one on this side is a grassland with some forests in it, and on the other side has a lake and a river and a couple of hills, as well as some small forests as well. Now there's a second board, and generally for a normal size game you use 2 of these boards side by side, and because of the fact that each is double-sided with 2 different maps, it gives you plenty of variety just in the normal box on how to set up the battlefield. Lots of combinations, and you gotta love that. Now the next thing here is a little catalog from Catalyst Game Labs, which is neat. I always get a kick out of it when some of the companies include a little catalog of some of their other products. Again, even though you can find all of that online, it's nice. I like that. Maybe it's the old school gamer in me. Next, you have a painting and tactics guide. Now, this shows if you want to paint and want to do customizing work with your mechs, it gives you some step-by-step instructions on how to paint mechs, which is nice for people who are not familiar with painting miniatures. It also gives some interesting advice on tactics in playing the game. It's a nice little pamphlet, and it was a good inclusion. The next thing here, and this is entirely storyline based, this is the Inner Sphere at a Glance. Now this goes over, I just want to show you that cover a little closer. The Inner Sphere at a Glance goes over a lot of storyline elements of the different forces that fight in Battletech. It goes over the different timelines, and it has maps of the Inner Sphere at different times, which is really cool. It's a full color book. It's very nice. Here's some later timelines and further maps of different showing where the different factions are located within the Inner Sphere. It goes and has, for instance, here is a thorough explanation of the faction House Davian, which rules the Federated Suns. Now, my unit I painted there, the red unit, was meant to be the first Sword of Light. That's the unit it's meant to represent, which is a unit under House Kurita of the Draconis Combine. And there's the full description, and you can see there's a mech, a dragon mech that is painted red, which, if I'm not mistaken, it's not the first Sword of Light, but it is one of the Sword of Light regiments, and he's shown there. Now, this is a nice book. It really gets you started into the storyline, and it gets you hooked, and before you know it, you pick one of these factions, you're like, I'm going to be them. I want to be them. And that's great. It also comes with a big poster-sized fold-out map of the Inner Sphere, which is the known galaxy, if you will, and where a lot of the factions are. This is at a later time period, but really, really nice, really cool stuff. Nice inclusion. Now, the next thing I have here, these are some great quick reference charts. They come on nice cardstock. They're double-sided. And these have all the important tables and quick references you'll need when you're playing a game of Battletech. These are fantastic. I'm really glad they included these because these are great. And now, having two of them is perfect because you get one, your opponent gets one, and yeah, that's exactly what you need. Then we have, this is some record sheets for a lot of the different mechs. Now you have here, these are quick record sheets, these tiny ones. Those are for the very, very basic version of playing. And then you have full-size record sheets of the mechs. Here, this is what a full-size record sheet looks like. And that's because there's actually two sets of rules in here. It comes with quick start rules, which is this tiny little pamphlet here. Now this is only, how many pages is this? 12 pages. This is a tiny little quick reference sheet. This is just the very, very basics of the rules of Battletech. And if you're new to it, this is a real quick, easy way to get playing. It takes out a lot of the more complex concepts like keeping track of ammunition and keeping track of heat and things like that. But it gets you going. You can play a couple games with this and then maybe graduate onto the full rules. Now for the full introductory rules, we have those here. Now this is a very nice rule book. And with the full introductory rules, and again, once you graduate to here, I mean, you could technically just always play with just what's in the box and just use these full introductory rules and never have to buy anything else. And it's a totally well fleshed out game with just that. I mean, this introductory rule book is 80 pages of full color, great stuff. Full, lots of diagrams to show you what they mean. The rule book here includes rules on how to use all of the things that come in the box, all of the mechs in the box. There is a larger book that you can buy that you can graduate to after this, which is called Total Warfare. And the main thing that helps with is more advanced weapon systems of later time periods, if you want to play in later time periods, because the box is mainly meant to play in the Succession War time period. And also, it also includes the rules, the more in-depth rules for using vehicles other than just mechs, like tanks and helicopters and hovercraft and things like that. But that being said, I mean, if you're playing Battletech, you're playing for the mechs. So if you don't want to graduate on to the larger scale and you just want to play it as a board game by itself with this box set, that's totally fine. And this introductory rulebook has enough rules to play for years and never get tired of all the cool different combinations you can do. It has multiple scenarios in here you can play, which give you great ideas for making your own scenarios. But if you ever do want to see what else is out there, then you can go buy the Total Warfare book, which I personally have a PDF I downloaded of. And you could graduate on to the more advanced rules of playing in later time periods, plus the more advanced rules of using vehicles. And now they come, this box set does come with the this pamphlet here, which kind of tells you a bit about what else is out there, like those more advanced rules. So if you see here, it talks about the introductory rules of the box set, and then it shows you, this is the Total Warfare book over here. Down there is the tech manual, where my little finger is. The tech manual allows you to design your own battle mechs. And then over on the other side of that page, they have the technical readouts of different time periods, which include rules for lots of different mechs. Now these are really more, and I have quite a few of them, these are really more storyline based to give you the histories of those mechs as well as a little bit of the rules. But in reality, for the rules of those mechs, there's some great PDFs you can download from their website. You have to buy them, but you download a time period. So the next step after this box, if you wanted to move on, is you would buy the Total Warfare book and then maybe buy the 3039 unabridged record sheet PDF, which would allow you to print out anything from the Succession War era before moving on to the later time periods. And each one of those time periods gives you the new designed mechs that you could then use, some of which are upgraded versions of these older ones, and others are just totally brand new designs. So there's a look at everything that comes in the box, with also a little bit of discussing of what you could get after this box if you want to expand on your Battletech game. So now I'm going to take these to the table and I'm going to show you a couple of turns of how Battletech works. Then we're going to come back. I'm going to discuss how this game feels. I'm going to review it and rate it, and then we're going to get a second opinion. Okay, So I filmed the entire first and second turns of a game of Battletech with myself playing both sides. But the first turn is generally a whole lot of maneuvering, moving onto the table and finding good positions, and not a whole lot of actual damage and exciting stuff. And that's normal with Battletech. But during the entire first turn, literally only one weapon actually hit its target, which was player 2's Zeus mech had one lucky shot with a particle projector cannon that did 10 damage to the right leg of player 1's Grand Dragon. It didn't really have a whole lot of effect on the battle, so I'm just going to fill you on the couple of things you missed like that, and then we're going to jump right into turn 2 where the real fun starts and lots of damage starts to be dealt. So everybody maneuvered onto the field. The first thing you do is you roll 2d6 to check initiative. Whoever rolls higher, the other person has to go first. Everybody moved up, everybody fired a few weapons. Not a whole lot happened. I have quick reference sheets which show you all, which I'm using to check for all of the extra difficulty modifiers when you're taking a shot. You get extra difficulty depending on how fast you moved and how fast your target moved, as well as if you're shooting through any terrain like forests. In addition, all of my mech sheets are in plastic, and I use dry erase markers to note how fast they have moved, so I can easily check that later, as well as noting damage and ammo usage and heat. And again, not a whole lot happened. Everybody fired a couple of weapons. Nobody built up any heat either. So we're going to jump right into the beginning of turn 2. And in the beginning of turn 2, we've already rolled initiative, and player 2 won initiative, which means player 1 actually has to activate one of their mechs first. When you win initiative, you make one of your opponents move one of their mechs first so you can see where they're going, and you can anticipate so you know where you want to put one of your mechs so that you have a clear shot at them. So there you have it, and we're about to jump straight into turn 2. Such a small amount of chance of actually hitting the target. In later turns, as we get closer and have a better chance, we'll wind up firing more weapons with each mech, as it will be acceptable to take larger amounts of heat on the mech with the better chance of hitting the target. So this side lost initiative, which means the Draconis Combine player must move one of their mechs first. So they decide to move the Atlas. The Atlas is going to walk 3 spaces straight forward. 1, 2, 3. Because he is huge and he is getting into close range, and he would like not to have too much of a big disadvantage to his firing. So for the same reason, the King Crab is also going to walk 3, also straight forward, right at the Atlas. 1, 2, 3. And the 2 biggest mechs on the field are going to dance. Now the Centurion, go back to player, I should go back to the player that lost the initiative, my mistake. So the Grand Dragon does not really want to be involved in that dance. It wants to be more like a long-range support to the dance. So the Grand Dragon is going to back up 3 spaces to supply some long-range firepower, also walking 3. And the Centurion, for the same reason, also doesn't want to be really directly involved in that dance. So he's also going to back up. He's going to back up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the Zeus does want to get closer. I should go back to the other player. Again, my mistake. So the other player has a look and says, okay, well, which one of these should I get involved over here with the big combat? The Trebuchet is probably the best idea, but the Trebuchet is needing to get around this area here. The Trebuchet can walk 6 or run 9. So what we're going to do is we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now with the 2 turns, that was a walk of 4. Okay, so now the Trebuchet has range to try to, and sight to fire on that King Crab. So now it is the other player's turn, and they would like to bring their Zeus into the fight, and their Zeus can walk 4. So they're going to go forward 2, turn for 3, and forward once more for 4. So that is a walk, and they moved an actual 3 spaces. Now, the first player, the Draconis Combine player, has one Panther left to move, and that is all they have left to move. So, but the Wolfhound over here has not moved yet, and the Panther is right across from him, and this is a little bit of a dangerous situation because the second player has smartly waited so maybe they could get the Wolfhound in the back, because the worst armor on all of these mechs is always in the back. So now we don't, as the first player now, we really don't want that to happen. So we take a look, where can we go? What can we do to try to keep that from happening? So we're going to continue to dance with the Wolfhound, we're going to continue to dance with the Panther. We're going to jump him 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going to use his jump jets, 4 spaces to move back towards his own side of the field, making him a little bit difficult to catch. Now, the Wolfhound can definitely get up to point blank range with him, but the Wolfhound cannot get around the rear because there's no space behind him here now. So it is the Wolfhound's turn, and the Wolfhound has to decide. Am I going to try to go for a rear shot on the Trebuchet and be very devastating, but give a rear shot possibly to the Panther, or what am I going to do here? What is my plan? So let's take a look. The Wolfhound has the ability to walk 6, run 9. You could turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that would give a left side shot to the Panther, not a rear. So that's not that bad. So we're going to do that. We're going to move turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we've gotten ourselves behind the Trebuchet with a run of 7 actual spaces moved. And now the front 3 sides of his base count as his front facing. So the Trebuchet is in his front, but he is in the Trebuchet's rear. So that is definitely a place the Trebuchet doesn't want to be. Let's see what happens. So, having lost initiative, again, they start to declare their shots first on this side of the table, on player 1's side of the table. So they're going to declare some shots from the Panther, who jumped over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away, only from his target, the Wolfhound. The Panther is going to declare a shot with both his PPC and his short-range missiles on the Wolfhound, trying to do some damage to him and maybe scare him off a little. So back to the other side of the table, the Wolfhound does not seem very frightened. He's going to fire with everything he has on the rear of that Trebuchet. Back to player 1. Player 1's got the Trebuchet, and they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces away from the King Crab, which is getting a significantly closer range. They're going to fire off again with both long-range missile launchers into the King Crab. Back to player 2, who has their Zeus, having moved up over here, is going to fire the large laser, the long-range missile launcher, and the PPC all at the Atlas, trying to concentrate fire over here and bring that Atlas down a little bit. Back to player 1. Player 1 is going to fire with their Grand Dragon at the King Crab, and they're going to fire their long-range missile launcher and their PPC at the King Crab. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces away. That's what they're going to shoot. Moving back to player 2, player 2 is going to declare with their Centurion. They are also going to fire at the Atlas. So they're going to fire their autocannon 10 and their long-range missile launcher 10 at the Atlas. Now back to player 1. Player 1 has only one mech left to declare, and that is the Atlas himself, who is going to be firing at the King Crab. The two of them are in knife fight range. This is really going to heat up quick. So the Atlas says, you know what? Let's do it all. And he fires an autocannon 20. He's going to fire a short-range missile 6 and 2 medium lasers into the King Crab, firing almost everything he's got. Now back to the second player. The second player has only one mech left to fire also, and that is the King Crab. Now King Crab is going to fire 2 autocannon 20s and a large laser into the Atlas. So this is going to be the turn where some stuff is really going to start to hit and really start to do some damage. Turn 2 is when it usually heats up in Battletech. So now, again, we're going to roll and see what we hit. So starting on this side of the table, on player 1's side, the Panther, he needed a 4 to hit, then he jumped, so he needed 7s because it's +3 difficulty. Now the Wolfhound moved very, very quickly, making him hard to hit with that, having moved 7 spaces running across the battlefield. It does make it a little more difficult with another +3, so it goes from 8 to 11 to hit the target, and then we have to check range. So these hits are going to be, from this side, are going to be very unlikely to hit. But he is in short range with the PPC, which means it needs an 11. And he is in medium range with the short range missile 4, which I did not realize. I'm just going to nix that. Usually when you're playing friendly play, if you have declared a shot that was impossible to hit and didn't realize, your opponent will allow you to cancel it. So in this case, we're just going to cancel that, and we're just going to try to get an 11 with the PPC. We got a 9. It was close, but no cigar. So back to player 2. Now the Wolfhound should have an easier time of it. The Wolfhound needed 4s, he ran, that brought him up to 6s. Now his opponent that he's firing at is the Trebuchet, who only walked 4 spaces. 4 spaces only adds +1 to the difficulty, so that goes from a 6 to a 7, and everything is in close range and there's no terrain to worry about, which means that's right, he only needs a 7 on 2d6, on 2 6-sided dice for every shot. So this is where it's going to get dangerous. These are very likely shots to hit. So he's going to start with a large laser. Needs a 7 to hit his target. And he misses. So the Trebuchet pilot is rejoicing. But now he has a medium laser. And that one hits. So that does 5 damage. Let's find out where it does its 5 damage. He rolled a 4 for the location, which on the attack location table in the rear is going to be the right arm. So the Trebuchet takes 5 damage to his right arm. Now it was rather key and good for the Trebuchet that the Wolfhound missed with his biggest gun, but he still has 2 more medium lasers to fire. Again, only needing 7s. Oh, but his aim is off and he missed with his second medium laser. But his third one hits home. And it hits him in the center torso on the rear armor, which is very weak and doesn't have a whole lot of armor there. It takes off 5 damage on the rear armor center torso of the Trebuchet, leaving him with only 2 armor points left in that location. So that was a little tough on him. Now back to the Trebuchet himself, he was firing at the King Crab. So the Trebuchet walked, he needed a 5 to hit his target. The King Crab moved 3, which only adds +1 difficulty, so you needed a 6 to hit the target. Then we had to check range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces away, which puts him in medium range, which means he needs 8s to hit his target with his long-range missile launchers. So we check, he misses with the first one, and he hits with the second one. So the second long-range missile launcher connects, and now we have to roll to see how many missiles, again on our little table here, how many missiles hit their target. We have a long-range missile 15, we roll, and he has, let's see, 12 of his missiles hit their target, and now they hit in groups of 5, and we have to check where on the King Crab. So this is all counting as hits to the front of the King Crab. So he gets 5 damage on the King Crab in location 9, which is the left leg of the King Crab. So we again mark on the left leg 5 damage. Second group of 5 connects to area 6, which is the right torso. Another 5 damage to the right torso of the King Crab. And then 2 damage for the last 2 missiles connects to the left arm of the King Crab. And the King Crab is starting with his first little bits of damage here to get hit. So now on this side of the table, we move on to the Zeus. Now the Zeus needed 4s, he walked, so that makes him needing 5s. He was shooting at the Atlas, who moved 3 spaces, which means he needs 6s, because that's another +1 difficulty. Then we check range. He is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 spaces away. So that is medium range for the long-range missiles and the PPC, and that is long range for the large laser, which means he needs 8 for the long-range missiles and the PPC, but he needs a 10 for the large laser. So we'll start with that large laser, which misses. Now we're going to go to the PPC, which only needs an 8. Oh, but he rolls poorly and misses with that 2, and the long-range missiles, they hit home. So the long-range missiles, again, we have to check how many of those hit, which we check the cluster hits table on our quick reference sheet, and we roll, and we check, and we get 9 missiles hit. Now, long-range missiles are grouped in groups of 5, so one group of 5 and one group of 4 for damage on the Atlas. So we're going to roll to see where those hit their targets. I'm just going to quickly mark off the ammo consumption of the long-range missile launcher. And we're going to see where the Atlas gets hit. So he gets 5 damage to location number 5, which for his front there is his right leg. So the Atlas takes 5 damage to the right leg, 3, 4, 5, and then 4 damage to location number 5, right leg again. Apparently concentrating fire on the right leg of the Atlas. Very nice, well done for the Zeus. Now back on player 1's side, player 1 fired his long-range missiles and his PPC at the King Crab. So the Grand Dragon walked, which means the +1 difficulty needs a 5. The King Crab moved 3 spaces, needs a 6, and then we check range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces away, which puts him in medium range for the PPC as well as the long-range missiles, which means he needs 10s. So PPC needs a 10 and misses. Long-range missiles need a 10. Oops. And misses. So unfortunately, the Grand Dragon missed with both his things, and there you have it. Now, back to player 2. Player 2 is next going to fire with his Centurion, who fired at the Atlas. Needs a 4, walked, needs a 5, Atlas moved 3 spaces, needs a 6, checking range, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Puts him at medium range for both things, so needs an 8 for both things. Firing the autocannon 10, needing an 8, misses, and firing, needing the long-range missiles, also misses. Some fairly unlucky shots going on here. A lot of these shots are missing their targets. But that happens. It's dice rolls. What can you do? Back to player 1, who has the Atlas, but the Atlas here now is in very good range to do some damage. The Atlas only walked, which means that he goes from a 4 to a 5 on his to-hit roll. Then the King Crab only moved 3 spaces, which means it goes to a 5 to a 6. And if we take a look, the Atlas is only 3 spaces away from the King Crab, which actually puts the Atlas in short range of everything he fired, which means all he needs is a 6 or better. These are the most likely to hit shots of the round so far, so let's see them happen. We're going to start with the autocannon 20. This is the biggest gun on the Atlas and the one most likely to do crippling amounts of damage to that King Crab. So let's see it happen. It hits. So where is that autocannon 20 going to hit on the King Crab? Let's find out. It hits in location 11, and it hits the King Crab in the left leg. So I'm going to mark off a bit of ammo usage, 1 round of ammo for the autocannon 20 on the Atlas, and the King Crab is going to take 20 damage. You heard that right, 20 damage to his left leg. So I'm going to mark that off on him. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20. So that just tore up the poor King Crab. Now the Atlas, his next weapon he has to fire is his short-range missiles. So he's going to take a shot with his short-range missile launcher, but he misses with that one. Then he's going to take a shot with his medium laser, and he misses with that one. And he takes a shot with his last medium laser, which hits the target for 5 damage in his left arm. So still fairly unlucky with the rolls, but
was lucky where it counted. His biggest gun hit home, and the king crab took a whopping 20 damage to the left leg. Ouch. Now the king crab is firing 2 autocannon 20s and his large laser, so he can now return the favor. So I'm going to knock off a couple of autocannon 20 shots real quick here on his sheet, and he's going to roll. Now again, he needs the same. He needs 6s on everything. So autocannon 20 at the Atlas hits the target. The Atlas is getting hit for 20 damage back to his center torso. 20 damage to the Atlas's center torso. Ouch. So 5, 10, 15, and 20. That really hurt. Second autocannon 20 also hits. But where does it hit? It hits in location 6, which is the right torso. So 20 damage. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 damage to the Atlas's right torso. Again, ouch, the Atlas is taking an even bigger beating than the king crab was. Now the Atlas gets shot with a large laser, which also hits its target. And where does it hit? It hits to location 9, the left leg, for 8 damage. So ouch, the Atlas took a huge chewing up there. So now everyone has fired their guns. The next thing would be is anyone who took 20 or more damage or had taken damage to leg joints, which no one did, but anyone who took 20 or more damage has to take a piloting skill test to see if they fall down. Now in this case, both the Atlas and the king crab took 20 or more damage in one round of firing, so both of them are going to have to check to stay standing. So we're going to start with the Atlas. Now they take a piloting skill roll, which is a 5, but they get a +1 to the difficulty for having taken 20 or more damage, so the Atlas needs a 6 or better to stay standing. And he makes it just barely, but the Atlas stays standing even with the impact of those 2 autocannon 20s from the king crab. Now the king crab has to do the same, and he also makes it. He's just fine. So now the next thing is we have the close combat phase, and look at this. That wolfhound has made it into close combat with the trebuchet. So now close combat is not rolled with your gunnery skill, it's rolled with your piloting skill, which means you need a 5 or better with all these mechs because they all have a piloting skill of 5. So the wolfhound needs a piloting skill of 5. He ran, that brings it up to a 7. And the trebuchet moved 4, that brings it up to an 8. So he needs an 8 or better to make a kick on the trebuchet and try to hit him in the legs. And he misses. Missing a kick like that can be very devastating because now he has to test to see if he falls down. He doesn't. He's just fine. He rolled a 6. He's good. He stays standing. So this is how a game of Battletech works. You attempt to outmaneuver your opponent. You try to get them in the rear. You shoot them up at range, and then you shoot them up at close range, and then you kick and you punch, and you hit them in close combat, and you do as much damage as you can, and you attempt to cripple their mechs while keeping your mechs alive. And that's what Battletech is all about. You want to outmaneuver your opponent. You want to play the odds. You have to decide, is using this ammunition and taking this heat from firing this gun worth it for my current chance to hit the target? If the chance is an 11 or a 12, it's probably not worth it. If it's a 9 or a 10, it might not be worth it. If it's a 6 through 7, it's probably worth it. And if it's a 5 or less, a 5 or a 4 to hit the target, it's definitely worth it to take the shot. So you have to eat through your opponent's armor, which depending on the mech can take, some mechs can take a lot longer to eat through their armor than others. If you take a look here, we did a whole lot of damage to the Atlas up there. You can see I filled in a lot of his circles, but he still has a lot of armor left because the Atlas is one of the most well-armored mechs in the game at this time period. Now, a much smaller mech though, like say the trebuchet, has far less armor. And as you can see, the couple of little hits we did, this one took most of his rear center armor off and most of the armor off his right arm. So he's actually severely damaged just from a couple of medium lasers hitting him. It really depends on the mech. That trebuchet could go down with another turn or 2 of firing depending on how many mechs are shooting at him, whereas the Atlas is probably going to last another few turns before he starts to take any significant damage. So there you have it. So let's head back. I'm going to talk about how this game feels and what I think about it, and then I'm going to rate it, review it, and we're going to get a second opinion from Lynn.
Okay, So that's how you play Battletech. Now, as you can see, this is a very involved game. None of the rules are particularly complex, but there's a fair amount that you need to keep track of. There's all the different modifiers, plus all the, how difficult it is to hit, taking a look at all the ranges of the weapons, also adding up your heat and deducting your ammo. It is a fairly involved simulation type combat, strategic, tactical warfare game. And in that regard, I mean, it does its job really, really well. You feel like all of the modifiers that you get because you moved, because your opponent moved, because your opponent's hiding behind a forest, all of these seem realistic. It seems like it makes sense. And after a few games, you do start to remember them offhand. But even remembering them and even playing quicker, just a 4-on-4 Lance game, this is a sizable game. You're probably committing to a 4-hour game playing this size game with 4 mechs on 4 mechs. That it is what it is. That's how the game plays. That being said, the game is very, very engrossing. It grabs your attention, and you really want to get the most out of each mech, and you want to be able to close those distances or keep away if you're using a long-range mech, and you want to use different strategies to flank around the enemy and try to get them in the rear armor and kill them quicker. It has an incredibly involved storyline. There's so much. There's novels and comic books and video games all expanding the storyline of the universe of Battletech, and you get into it and you decide your force is going to be from a specific great house, and you make up stories behind them, and you come up with names for all of your mech commanders. And you know what, in addition to coming up with names for your mech warriors between games, you spend time looking at all the different mech designs and comparing them, the good and the bad, and talking with friends or talking with people online, discussing which mechs are best in the Succession War era versus the Clan Invasion time period. And it really, if you get into it, it hooks you. And another positive about this game is, and this is a very interesting one, something I didn't notice it was doing when I was a kid, is this game teaches you math. There's a lot of math in this game, and if you play this game with your kids, if you get them hooked into it and you play it on weekends, this is a game that will help your kids' math grade. And you know what? That's a pretty awesome perk right there. A game that can help your kids in math class. Because whereas before your kids might have said, I don't ever need to know the percent chance in real life that something will happen, they play this game and they start figuring out the percent chances of guns to hit, guns to do a certain amount of damage, etc. It's a really cool perk to the game. Now, one of the really, really sucky things about this game is that there is still a fair amount of randomness. Now, I understand people can get random shots, and random shots can sometimes hit a mech in the head or do a lot of damage to their engine and take a mech out really quick. And you know what sucks? It sucks when you're winning and you're kicking your opponent's butt, but your opponent gets that lucky headshot and turns it around in that one crucial turn. But then you know what's really awesome about this game? When your opponent is winning and he's got you outnumbered, but you get that lucky headshot and you turn it around in one turn. See what I did there? The thing that can suck about this game is also the thing that can be so awesome about this game if you're on the other side of it happening. And when you play enough games of it, it's just the sort of thing where, yeah, it happens. But most often, you will win because your strategy is better, not because of lucky shots. They will happen maybe 20% of the time. Lucky shots will happen, and they'll be the reason why somebody won. But far more often, it'll be because of your strategy and your tactics. And lucky shots are just part of the game. And you know what? Sometimes they feel really epic. When an Atlas comes in and he's coming bearing down on your Hunchback, and your Hunchback's severely outclassed. The Hunchback is a 50-ton mech, and Atlas is a 100-ton mech. And he comes running up at you, and you fire your autocannon 20, and you hit him in the head. Took his head clean off in one shot. It can feel amazingly epic when that does happen. So it is what it is. So some of the things that are bad about this game are also some of the things that are good about this game. I still really like this game, even though it's a very long game, And I don't often get people that are willing to commit to a 4-hour game. When I do, I love it. I enjoy playing this game. Whether I'm just playing a stand-up fight, or we're playing a special scenario that one of us devised, or we're playing in a league and it's part of a campaign, this is a great game to play. I enjoy it. I may not get it to hit the table as often as I would like, but it's a game that 30 years after its inception, I am still playing this game. I will still play it whenever somebody wants to play it. I have had countless hours enjoying playing the game, designing my own mechs, comparing mechs, talking about mechs online, coming up with backstories to my mech warriors, giving them all cool names. I like to give my mechs like Top Gun type names, you know, and it's a lot of fun. So for all those reasons, I give Battletech an 8 out of 10 stars. But let's get a second opinion. Lynn, how many stars out of 10 would you give to Battletech?
6.
So now Lynn gave it a 6. Now a 6 means she still likes it, but she really has to be in the mood to play it. And that makes sense because I haven't gotten her to play it with me in a while, though she used to play it much more often. And the thing with her is, she feels the game is too long for what it does. She feels a 4-on-4 mech battle should be a quick affair. It shouldn't last 4 hours. And I don't fully disagree with her. It's just I still enjoy it at 4 hours, whereas she will only enjoy it on occasion because of its 4-hour time period. That's her biggest gripe, and her second biggest gripe, again, is the randomness. And some people do really have a problem with a fair amount of randomness. But you know what? That does go to show you that randomness does happen. It does happen in real battles. People get lucky shots. There is something to be said for playing the odds. All the rolls being 2 6-sided dice versus 1 6-sided dice makes it much easier to play the odds. The most common number rolled on 2 6-sided dice is a 7. So if you need a 7 or less to hit your target, you are very much likely to hit your target. Whereas needing higher than a 7 to hit, it gets worse and worse the higher you go. And you can really play the odds properly, saying, is it worth the ammo expenditure and the heat? I need a 7 to hit my target, it's worth it. I need a 9 to hit my target, probably not. And I, in a way, I say that this game has some similarities to poker in that regard, because when you play poker, you play the odds. There's a lot of randomness in poker. They shuffle up the deck, they deal out random cards, but yet there's a lot of skill too. You play the odds. What are the odds that I have the winning hand? In this case, is what are the odds that me wagering this ammo and this heat to make this shot, that this shot is going to hit home? And you play the odds, and you can play tight, where you only take those shots that are really likely to hit, or you can play loose sometimes and just go for those Hail Mary shots. And it's your choice. And you know what? I love this game. So there you have it. Lynn gave it 6 out of 10 stars. I gave it 8 out of 10 stars. What do you think? Have you played Battletech before? Have you been playing it for 20 or even 30 years? Do you have any comments or questions you would like to make either on this video or on Battletech? Then please put them in the comments down below. And as always, if you like this video and would like to see more like it, please, please, please like, share, and subscribe. Now, one special question I have for you is, would you like me to see me do some videos discussing some of the expansions to this game and some of the extra time periods, or maybe some of the PDF datasheet downloads where you can download lots of extra mechs? If you would, make a comment down below specifically telling me so, and maybe I will do some in the future. And until next time, game on.